What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel. I want to talk to you about a pretty serious topic today. I believe we're already in World War III. It's pretty apparent to me when you look around at everything, the positions that other countries are taking, including smaller countries that are supposedly our allies like Saudi Arabia and people like that, all over the world. There is a shift towards the Russians and the Chinese and away from the United States of America. Our dollar is being intentionally collapsed by the powers that be right now, the people that are in control right now. We could blame that on a lot of different things. The creation of the Fed back in 1913. We could go all the way back to the 1800s, the 1860s, when a lot of people believe and are taught that the Civil War was all about slavery, but it wasn't all about slavery. In fact, one of Lincoln's famous quotes was, if he could basically keep the Union together without freeing a single slave, that's what he would do. So here I was, just like you. If you went to public school, we were all taught that the primary reason for the Civil War was actually slavery, when that couldn't be further from the truth. It was more about states' rights. Do the states actually have sovereignty? And Lincoln pretty much spun that on its head and turned the country upside down ever since then. And you could argue we've been in a constitutional crisis ever since the 1800s, when the North and the South went to war and they called it the Civil War. Although there's, the words always crack me up. Civil War? Is there anything civil about any kind of war you've ever heard of? No, it shouldn't be called a civil war. It's just unbelievable. And, I fear we're facing that again in our nation because of the great divide that we have amongst, people that are on the right versus people who are on the left. And I know it's not as easy and clear cut and black and white as there's a line right down the middle and you're either on this side of the fence or you're on that side of the fence. I know there's a lot of people that try to ride the fence, but these days the politics are so divisive that it's almost impossible to be middle of the road anymore. There hardly are any people that I would consider moderate Republicans, moderates, I guess we'd say, by the Democrats' standards, and there certainly aren't any moderate liberals or, traditional classical liberals. They seem to all have disappeared, and the blue dog Democrats and people like that used to be around that were fairly reasonable. And at the end of the day, although they may have had a different method of going about it, I believe that they actually loved the United States of America and they wanted us to continue forward. Those people seem to all be gone from the Democrat Party. And now all you have are these radicals that are holding power. And, I'm sure the average Democrat voter isn't all like that, but a lot of them are. A whole lot of them are. And if nothing else, it's because they tolerate all of this idiocy that the Democrat Party is putting forth, and we're just supposed to swallow this stuff hook, line, and sinker and never say anything about it, or you're accused of transphobia, racism, misogynism, homophobia, whatever. Take your pick. They've got 1,000,001 things to call you and label you if you don't agree with the party line. Well, we all know the 24-hour news cycle can be like a tornado or like a whirlwind, right? I mean, it can suck you up in it and spit you out the other side, and you won't even remember half the stories you read because you've read so much stuff that's just so catastrophic in and of itself that to single out one story would be pretty hard to do. So last night, as I was falling asleep, I had an epiphany. I was thinking about, what video do I want to do next? What do I want to talk about next with the people that follow my channel? Because I love your feedback. I love reading your comments and just hearing what you're thinking about all of these topics that we're talking about. Today, we're going to talk about World War III. As I was falling asleep last night, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. We're already in World War III. And that's not what hit me so hard. What hit me so hard is that it's been planned for probably more than 50 years now that we're not going to win this war. The United States, in the eyes of the UN and the NWO and the WEF, the United States has had far too much for far too long. They want to dethrone us as a superpower. We're the one thing that's been stopping them from getting all of their wishes and all their dreams to come true. Is the United States is there providing this beacon of hope and optimism to some people that will still listen. Freedom and liberty, those aren't just words, they're ideals. They have created the best system this world has ever known, the most free system this world has ever known. And capitalism plays a role in that. Is capitalism perfect? Is it, no, it's not. Obviously it's not. But it's the best thing that the best economic system that I've ever come across. Yeah, there's greed and there's people that take advantage of stuff, and there's just luck. Some people, they never have to work hard, and it seems like everything just falls into their lap, and that's just the luck of the draw. I've never been lucky like that. I don't understand what it is that makes people have that sort of luck or whatever. And honestly, I don't know that I'd want it. To me, working hard for things has always given me a greater value of those things. Once I work hard for something, then I don't want to destroy it, or I don't want to let it just, rust away or rot away, because I worked hard for that thing and I want to preserve that thing. And I think so many people, they get everything so easily and they're drunk on comfort. As Chris Ann Hall famously said, I don't know, a few years ago before she got kicked off of YouTube for talking about the Constitution and liberty and freedom and stuff like that. I don't know how in the world I've stayed out of their crosshairs here lately. I guess it's just because they've shadow banned me to such a point that they don't worry about it. They don't worry about, 400 or 500 people seeing my videos, because that's not 5 million, right? And they're only really targeting people that are attracting larger audiences. And for whatever reason, I can't do that. I blame the YouTube algorithm. But maybe it's me. Maybe it's that there are just so few of us patriot-minded people out there that this kind of content doesn't actually draw very many people in. But back to the topic at hand. As I was crashing out last night, I was like, man, we've already lost World War III. It's not that we're in it, it's that we've already lost it. It's already been determined that we're going to be the losers. And Biden is playing right into their hands by sending all of our weapons over to Ukraine. Not all of them, but a vast majority of our stockpiles over to Ukraine to hook it up with Russia. Well, they've depleted our weaponry here in the United States. I saw an article about 2 weeks ago now, maybe it was a week ago, but the U.S. Army is having to lower their standards because too many people that are coming into the recruiting office are obese. Their words. They say that like 20% of the people coming in were obese and they were having to turn them away. So instead, they lowered the standards. That's on top of the fact that I believe it was like 20 or 25% of the current enlisted military service members that are in the military right now, active duty, are already obese. How are we going to win a war if we don't have any weapons and the people that are actually holding the weapons are obese? We're not going to win. We're not going to win. And also you've got a commander-in-chief that's, God, he's gone, guys. He's such a Marxist and such a communist that, he's just handing the keys to our enemies in every different way. I was thinking about something. One of the reasons that I reaffirmed my original thinking that we will not win World War III. And the reason why is because think about what we had in World War II. We had a sense of unity, a sense of Americanism, a sense of American pride and patriotism, nationalism, if you will. We had Democrats that they used to call blue dog Democrats, meaning that they were actually like classical liberals, and they were against the government coming in and spying on you and those sorts of things. Those people are all gone out of the Democrat Party as far as I can tell, at least out of the people that are in power, right? They may still exist. You got a few outliers. I can't remember that guy's name, but there's one Democrat that's kind of been like throwing a wrench in a lot of the Democrats' plans, and I can picture his face, but I can't think of the guy's name right now. One of them's name, it was a lady named Cinema, and the other guy, I can't think of his name, Manchin, I think it is, Manchin. And if I'm remembering right, if I'm saying the correct name, that's the guy that was kind of like, basically holding back the flood dam, the flood waters, right? And the Democrats hate him for that. He's probably been kicked out of all the committees and everything else, all the other, reindeer games. He's not going to be allowed to play in those games anymore because, he didn't side with the communists and vote for whatever super budget bill was going to break the dollar or whatever it was. I don't even recall now, but 2 or 3 different issues. Senator Manchin has been on the right side of things, even though politically he's on the other side of the aisle from me. I can look at the way he's voting and I can tell this is a guy that actually, at least from my knowledge of this guy, he seems to really like love the country like the older Democrats, the blue dogs of the past. And as those people are farther and fewer between, and the Democrats are just becoming more and more radicalized along the way, then that we've lost our values here in the country. We have no common ground anymore with people that are on the other side of the aisle. The divide is too wide. It's too great of a divide for us to reach across the aisle anymore and extend an olive branch. The olive branch won't even reach. These people have gone so far to the left, they're off the frickin' planet, man. They're out of their minds. It's pure idiocracy happening right before our very eyes, playing out right before our very eyes, and most Americans are just accepting in it, and they're just like, well, what are you going to do? You can't do nothing. And I get it, but that complacency is going to destroy the country. Being drunk on comfort to the point where you're not willing to go out and risk anything and stand up and even speak. I'm not talking about going out and starting a revolution on your own. I'm talking about talking to other people and being firm in your beliefs and just stating your beliefs and not allowing people to shut down your conversations by changing the subject and stuff like that. It happens to me all the time. I'll be trying to talk to some people, maybe they're a friend of mine or in my family or something like that, and I'm trying to get the pulse on what they're feeling, and people that are uncomfortable with it will immediately change the subject. They either don't have the knowledge to argue and debate you, or they just don't want to hear it. And I think that's what it is. They don't want to hear it. It's outside of their household orbit, so they don't even look at it. And I think that's a great part of our problem. The biggest part of our problem is complacency. The United States citizenry being drunk on comfort and just accepting these things that we all know are morally wrong. It's sending us into moral bankruptcy in the United States of America. And I can't remember if it was Adams or who it was that said it, but basically the Constitution and the Bill of Rights was written for people that were moral, Christian people, Christian morals, right? I'm not saying you got to be go to church on Sunday and Wednesday kind of Christian, but at least, follow the 10 Commandments, right? Have that as your basis for your morality. And practice that and be proud of that. Don't be ashamed of that. But anyway, as I was thinking about all this stuff last night and how divided we are and how we're not going to win World War III, and I don't even think it's going to necessarily have to go nuclear for us to lose. The reason why is because, again, our soldiers, we can't get the recruitment requirements. Even before the obesity thing that I read a couple of weeks ago, even before that, all branches of the service were having a hard time meeting the recruitment goals. And think about it. Would you want to go sign up for somebody that is the commander-in-chief? That's Joe Biden? No, hell no. In fact, that was the thing that kept me from joining the U.S. Marine Corps back in the 90s, was after, right when I was getting out of high school, I went over and talked to a couple of Marine Corps recruiters and stuff, and I was pretty serious about doing it because I thought, hey, this will give me a chance to get higher education, and get the GI Bill and all that stuff, and, be good for me, good discipline, all that stuff, build your muscles up, come out, knowing how to kill a man 6 different ways with your thumb, that kind of stuff. I wanted to be a Marine because of that sort of stuff, because I believe out of all the branches, they're still the strongest, the toughest in my mind. No offense if you're in any of the other branches, but I think at that time back in the 90s, their basic training was some of the toughest, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to, chisel my 18-year-old body into, a freaking killing machine. That's what it would have been. And I didn't join. At the last minute, I started looking into politics, and I realized that Bill Clinton, the draft dodger, was the commander-in-chief. And I'm like, wait a minute, do I want to go over there and bomb an aspirin factory in Iraq or whatever and bomb the wrong place or whatever and have that on my conscience? Hell no. So at the last minute, I was like, nah, I ain't doing this. I'll just stay in the private sector. I still think very highly of the service and of the military branches. The problem is not the service. It's the leadership. It's the leadership. I mean, we've gone straight over the edge of the cliff, guys. You guys that know, you feel it. I'm not going to go back and rehash all that stuff. I mean, the dollar's collapsing. Everything's going to hell in a handbasket. Inflation's through the roof, 40-year, 50-year high, whatever it is. They're trying to ban guns right now, even though the Second Amendment clearly says, shall not be infringed. Unfreaking believable. So, Why am I so convinced that we'll lose World War III? Well, I'll tell you why. It's two reasons. One, the enemies that we're facing are bigger and badder and more bold and have stolen so much of our technology. They know everything about us. They've infiltrated every part of our system with TikTok and these other BS things like this. They're spying on us all the time. We've got Chinese nationals coming up through the southern border unchecked from my understanding. There could be an invasion going on right now with Chinese and Russian soldiers coming over our border, and we wouldn't be the wiser. Biden and his people aren't going to tell us that. They're going to allow us to have the knife to our throat before we know even what's hitting us. So that's one reason. The enemies we face are huge. They're powerful. They're superpowers also, ×2. And really, when you add in some of our other allies, like Saudi Arabia and places like that, then, you know, I mean, it's just, again, it's a death knell. Biden has destroyed the United States of America in a short time. I mean, I got to give him credit. He's just like Obama, and that's why I know Obama's running things behind the scene, is that that's what I remember back when Obama was president, was that things were happening so fast that, you know, 4 or 5 things would happen during the week, and you'd still be bitching about the thing that happened on Monday, and 3 or 4 other things happened, you know, the rest of the week that you couldn't even pay attention to because you're so hyper-focused on the thing that happened Monday. And that's exactly what's going on here with Biden. It's the same strategy: overwhelm the system, crash the system, demoralize everyone, make them feel like there's nothing to fight for, nothing worth fighting for. But I'm telling you what, this is worth fighting for. Now, the second factor is, back in World War II, we actually had factories all over the place. We had, you know, Ford plants, GM plants, Willys Jeep plants, all these different things, Winchester, you know, Remington, all of these different manufacturers had big facilities here in the United States of America. And those things were quickly turned over to munitions plants. And, you know, like the Willys factory, they were making all the Jeeps and you know, well, the ones that Ford couldn't make. Ford and Willys and GM, everybody else that was in the game that had a factory had to make military equipment because of the war, because of World War II, right? Well, guess where those factories are now? They're in China. Yeah. And Russia still has a lot of factories over there, so they're going to be able to outproduce us. And I would argue one of the only reasons we were able to win World War II like we did, well, a couple of reasons. We had allies and stuff with England and other countries that were, you know, that were good back then, and mostly moral countries. Now all of that stuff's been lost, right? Through the same sort of liberalism and communism that has infected our country has also infected Australia and Europe as a whole, with the exception of Russia, oddly enough, a previous communist nation who now embraces a lot of capitalistic and even religious ideals that the United States used to embrace. But now we've turned our backs on that sort of stuff. We've turned our backs on having factories that we could turn into munitions plants in the future. Instead, now we have this outsourcing where we buy everything from someone else because it's cheaper to produce it over there. So, in the name of making a whole bunch of politicians rich, a bunch of fat cats even richer, we've sold out our factories in our country to the lowest bidder, to the lowest labor force, China, where they can get things done for, you know, 2 cents a day or $1 a day or whatever, and cost you, you know, 25 bucks an hour over here today to pay an American to go out and do the job. Most of these companies can't even fill the jobs, even when they're offering super high wages. I remember a point when McDonald's was offering like 15 bucks an hour because they couldn't get people in there. I mean, 15 bucks an hour? Seriously? To work at McDonald's, and they still couldn't fill the positions? That's why we're going to more automated stuff like the kiosks at McDonald's now, and self-checkouts at the grocery stores and things like this that have just basically automated many people that were on the ground level. So like, you know, when you first get out of school or whatever, you got to go get a job somewhere just to get, you know, get some income coming in, entry-level jobs. These things more and more and more are being replaced by machines, kiosks, and self-checkouts and things like that we've discussed. So Anyway, guys, yeah, the future looks pretty grim for freedom-loving, liberty-loving Americans. If you're into communism, socialism, Marxism, Saul Alinsky rule for radicals, or, Cloward and Piven strategy to destroy the country by overwhelming the system, or if you're into open borders like George Soros and on and on and on. If you're into that stuff, things are great. Never been better. But if you're into classical, traditional Americanism, where you go out and work hard and you get to keep your money and you get to put that money towards something else that you want to see, happen there, or maybe you're growing crops or something, or you're buying farm equipment or whatever to increase your productivity on your own place. That stuff is all disappearing right before our very eyes. And it ain't just disappearing. It's being stolen from us. It's being given away by people like Joe Biden, Barack Obama, George Bush to a large degree. I mean, Bill Clinton, on and on and on. All the way back. There's some things that Ronald Reagan did with the border stuff that still to this day we're suffering the consequences because Reagan was lied to by the Democrats about the border. And so, guys, we're up shit creek without a paddle. No doubt about it. And most people are just bebopping along through life. They have no idea that the rug is fixing to be jerked out from underneath them with the collapsing dollar all around, the dollar as the petrodollar, the world currency. As that collapses, guess what's going to happen? Your dollar value is going to go down and down and down, and the prices are going to seem like they're going up and up and up, but it's really not that. It's the buying power of the USD has gone down. It's plummeted. So we're facing the biggest battle of our lifetimes. And it's whether or not we're going to remain a free country or not, and whether or not we're going to have liberty and justice and self-governance and, equal justice, more importantly than that. Are we a nation of men, or are we a nation of laws? We're supposed to be a nation of laws, and justice is supposed to be blind, but Biden and the Democrats have proven that's not the case. They can do whatever they want to do. You can't do anything, or you'll be banned from YouTube, or you'll be arrested, or your place at Mar-a-Lago will be raided, or whatever, right? Justice is no longer equal. I mean, we've lost it, guys. We've lost it long ago. And I don't know when it was. Maybe it was back in the 1800s. I got something crawling out. Tick. First tick of the year. Great. I'll have to watch out for that. We've lost it, man. I don't know if it was back in the 1860s when the Civil War happened. I don't know if that's what caused it. Lincoln basically making federalism and the national government much, much bigger from that point forward, so that they can control the states, so they could take away state sovereignty. I don't know if that's what did it. I don't know if it was the creation of the Fed. I don't know if it's just the New World Order picking away at us like a death by a thousand cuts knife attack every single day. And most people are so numb to it, they don't even notice the knife going in. We're lost, guys. And I hate to be cynical, but I'm a realist. I'm not a cynic, I'm a realist. This thing is over. It's just we're running on fumes right now. The fumes of the founding fathers and great men that came before us. I don't know if it's the fourth turning, the fourth industrial revolution, as Klaus Schwab likes to call it. I don't know, but there is a lot of truth to that old saying about, strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. And that's where we are right now. A generation of weaklings that have had everything handed to them and are so arrogant they don't think any of this stuff is even worth fighting for. And it's because they don't know what the hell they've got. They don't know how much freedom they actually have until someone puts them in a gulag and throws away the key. That's when you'll realize what you've lost. But by then it's too late to fight back or to do anything or say anything. So anyway, guys, that's my thought. We're already in World War III. It may be a Cold War for the moment, for the most part, but it will be hot before it's all over. And we've already lost. At least that's my opinion. But I want to know what you guys think about this. Am I right? Is it over? Is there no way to recover from the tailspin that we're in right now, the death spiral that we're in right now? Is there something I'm missing? Is there some other thing that's going to come along? I mean, do you think that the next election is going to be on the up and up, and the rightful person is going to be president, whether you like Trump or whoever? You know, maybe you like Kamala or something. You'd be the only one. But do you think Trump's going to save us, or is it too far gone and the only thing left is slavery? Because that's where this ends, our enslavement. The land of milk and honey has been bled dry, and it's by these rich fat cat politicians and their buddies. You know, I was thinking about that with my wife the other day. I mean, how the hell is it? You tell me how the hell it is that you go into being a senator or a congressman on a national level, and you're making like 150 or 200 grand a year, and you go in, maybe when you go into office, you've got like $1 million in your bank account. Your net worth is $1 million. But when you come out, it's 300 million. You tell me how the hell that can happen on $100,000, $200,000 a year salary. Well, it happens with insider trading, special deals that they get to do that we don't get to do. Lobbyists, NGOs, you know, greasing your politician's hand. That's how it happened, guys. The money in politics is one of the things that's destroyed us. But it's also our lack of gumption, if you want to call it that, or balls. It's our lack of balls or intestinal fortitude, getting up there and, you know, and saying, look, this is what I believe in. This is right. That is wrong. And also, one of the most powerful words in the English language that's grossly underused, no. People don't know how to say no, and they certainly don't know how to hear no anymore. I mean, video after video after video after video I've seen of people just going wild out in public. I saw one the other day. This guy was like bitching and moaning because he wasn't getting his ice cream fast enough, you know, and then he starts like slamming stuff and throwing things. You know, I heard the story about a woman, I think she got killed over some like honey mustard sauce or mayonnaise or something like that. Not enough mayonnaise or not enough taco sauce. This stuff has been happening over and over and over. That's why we're morally bankrupt. That's why when you hear of another school shooting in a couple of weeks or whatever, it ain't even gonna bother you, because you're gonna know, oh yeah, well, this is just one of many, because we're morally bankrupt. Our children are morally bankrupt. Parents have lost the ability, I guess, of good sense in raising their children themselves. They're letting the state raise them. So, yeah, guys, we're pretty screwed. And I don't see any bright spot in any of this stuff unless something drastic happens. And I don't even know what that thing would be. I don't know of one event, you know, other than Jesus Christ coming back and telling us all we're doing it wrong or something. I don't know of any one event that's going to change the course that we're on right now. So, in my opinion, World War III is already underway, and the United States has already been, it's already been decided that we're going to be the losers. And they're going to take all of our stuff. All of it. The most important stuff that you think you have, they're going to take it from you. Your land, your freedom, your liberty, your Bill of Rights, your Constitution, all of it's up for grabs. Even your spouse. Because, you know, there's some little unknown thing that a lot of people don't really realize, is that China's one-child policy has caused them to be severely out of balance with the male population. And there's probably nothing they would love more than to come over, seize the United States, and steal our women so they can reproduce. I bet they're not having the same problems over there in China that we're having here with LGBTQ stuff and things like that. I bet they're not having nearly the same problem. The drug problems, the fentanyl, that seems to be just here. As if the Chinese are actually targeting us with one of their war strategies, in my opinion, is not only the information war with companies like TikTok and stuff like this, but the drug war. They're flooding our borders with fentanyl and other things that are deadly killers here in the United States. And, you know, The bleeding heart liberals, every time there's a school shooting, they're like, oh, we got to ban all guns because look, 6 people died. Well, what about the 600,000 that died? And I don't know, I'm just pulling that number out. But what about all the people that have died from deadly fentanyl brought over here by Joe Biden's buddies, the Communist Chinese Party? What about that? I mean, shouldn't we ban that? Shouldn't we do something to stop that? No, no, no. It's all about guns, see, because they want to take our last line of defense away from us. The ability to fight back for ourselves. You know, as many times as Joe Biden has said, oh, you need an F-15 and a nuke to take on the federal government, he is so full of shit. He knows it ain't true. He knows what he's saying ain't true. That's why they're going after the guns as hard as they are. Otherwise, if what he was saying was true and he actually believed it, he wouldn't have to say it. He wouldn't have to say it. He wouldn't have to ban guns. He wouldn't have to try to come after your AR-15 or whatever. So anyway, guys, I've gone on long enough here. I just want your feedback. What do you think? Am I right about this? Is World War III already decided and we lost? Or what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. I always love reading them. Anyway, I better get moving. The ticks have done sniffed me out. I've done flipped off 2 or 3 ticks and got mosquitoes coming and getting me. So, I'm not going to let them bleed me dry. Are you? Are you going to let the ticks and the mosquitoes in Washington, D.C. bleed you and your family dry of everything that you've worked so hard for? Your land, your property, your freedom, your right to self-governance, your Bill of Rights, your Constitution? As for me, I stand for liberty to the bitter end. And I'm willing to defend that to the bitter end. I hope you are too. Anyway, guys, appreciate you tuning in. And until then, we'll see you next time.